Previously on Gayfesh.
Boy, I'm sure glad I didn't forget to bring up Picard's mom. It was certainly a relevant and important theme running through the first episode. She told him as a child to look up to the stars, and he brought her up when giving a commencement speech at the Academy. They did a great job casting an actor who looks like a younger version of the one that appeared in TNG. The fact that the Borg Queen literally echoes his mother's words to him is surely relevant, and not even my sleep-deprived brainwriting review at 2 a.m. could have missed it.
And now, the conclusion.
Today we're reviewing Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 4, Watcher. But before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Ooh boy! This episode does not beat around the bush. Directly calling out the inhumanity of DHS ICE and the racism that traded hoods for suits. I expect the usual suspects to whine about this one something extra, particularly given a particular character that is reintroduced here. I'm also loving the bickering energy between Rafi and Seven. I know I complained at the beginning of the season, but my perseverance is paying off in spades. And an unlikely dynamic between Agnes and the Queen has developed. It's interesting to see the Queen's powers of manipulation and seduction even when she doesn't have technological sway over one's brain. So, let's get into spoilers. Picard and Agnes cloak the ship and head over to the chateau to build a fire to get warm. While there, Picard begins experiencing further flashbacks of his mom. I'm sure we'll get the payoff to that in a later episode. There's also a funny bit where Picard explains that the chateau has been abandoned since World War II when the Picards fled to England. My jokey headcanon had always been that England invaded France in World War III, but I'll take this one for sure. Picard also recognizes Agnes must have a subconscious suggestion telling them the date that the timeline changes because she keeps going for things with the number 15. Since they're in mid-April, looks like the timeline changes on tax day. And since the Bell riots won't happen until September of this year, looks like we won't be getting that direct crossover after all. With the further knowledge unlocked, Agnes beams Picard to the coordinates, which takes him to the very spot in LA where Guinan's bar exists in the 25th century. And sure enough, there it is, and there she is. Instead of de-aging Whoopi or giving a convoluted explanation for why she would look old in the past, they just go ahead and recast her younger self. Which I'm fine with. But what I'm not fine with is why this Guinan does not recognize or remember Picard. They met 150 years ago, and it was memorable enough that Guinan told Picard about it 500 years later. This younger Guinan is very jaded and standoffish, despairing over what humanity has done to itself and its planet, but she states she is not the Watcher that Picard seeks. She instead takes him to find the real one, who has the appearance of a human Laris. When he says her name, it's not clear if she recognizes him, but she grabs him and they vanish in a puff of smoke. Seven and Rafi are trying to hunt down Rios, and we see them on a bus with the same punk from Star Trek 4 listening to the same song on a boombox. Absolutely hilarious cameo, especially because he immediately turns the music off when Seven tells him to. I think he learned his lesson from that Spock neck pinch. They end up stealing a cop car in order to gain access to the laptop to locate Rios in ICE custody, and he's being bussed out to a sanctuary district. Agnes has to negotiate with the Queen for increased power to the transporter and holds the Queen's loneliness as a bargaining chip. But as soon as Seven and Rafi are beamed away from a police chase to intercept the ICE bus, Agnes reneges on her deal to socialize with the Queen and leaves her alone. Probably not a good idea to piss off your only way home, Agnes. The final scene of the episode shows Q trying and failing to use his powers. That's an interesting development. Wonder what caused that? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts.
What if Guinan has a run-in with the depowered Q, and that's why he fears her in the future?
That's a possibility, but I'd still prefer a solution where Elorians have some actual power that can threaten the continuum. After all, this episode did demonstrate that Elorians have an innate connection to changes in the timeline. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to my Patreon to get shouted out in future videos. Check out my Bandcamp for banging tunes, including all the ones you heard in this video. Follow me on Twitter @GayestFesh, And don't forget to check out my podcast, The Rest of Both Worlds, where I go through Star Trek The Next Generation with a friend who's never seen it. Thanks to my patrons Piftle Cakes and Renee Vorbeck. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you all in the next video.